Good afternoon. How's everybody doing? Hope everybody's having a great Thursday here. Today, the training is going to be somewhat of a continuation, trying to keep it in a chronological order here. We talked in the past about pretty much the conversation you're having with a buyer, along with the conversation you would be having with a seller, kind of what the conversation should look like, some key points you should hit. And now we're kind of going more into where to find these buyers and where to find these sellers. So we're going to start with finding the buyers. So, of course, when it comes to marketing, because this is what it is, you kind of want to make sure you do your research. We've said this in the past. You want to make sure you're doing your research and knowing exactly what you're getting yourself into and how to spend your money, because a lot of this marketing does require some money to be spent or even time, and time is money for us. So, you want to make sure we're identifying who we want to market to. Of course, we're going to create the marketing material based off of who we're marketing to. And then, of course, devoting our time to do these things. A lot of times we kind of create the marketing material, we talk about it, but we don't have a time to actually do it, whether it's work for our full-time jobs or if we just only dedicate an hour or 2 hours to actually execute on these things, which may not be enough for some of the marketing material. So, of course, identifying who we'd like to market to, what does that mean? When we say identify who we'd like to market to, we're talking about uh, whether we're looking for first-time home buyers, whether we're looking for higher income earners, lower income earners, whether we're looking for out-of-state clients, in-state clients, and all these things. And we've broke it down way more in the past, and I'll make sure we get those slides linked in as well as accessible to you guys so that you guys can see those slides, how we break down very much who we're trying to market to. So depending who you're marketing to, you're going to find yourself creating different marketing material. If I'm dealing with somebody who's already purchased a home in the past, my flyers or my social media posts may not talk about things like first-time home buyer programs. It may not talk about down payment assistance because of those things being available to more first-time buyers or people who haven't owned a home in the last 3 years, sometimes 5 years. So those marketing materials are going to be irrelevant or may not make sense or do what they're supposed to do if we're sending it to people who've already owned a property in the past. That's kind of what we're talking about when we say we want to make sure it's relevant. Uh, then we're talking about, or some examples I could say of who you would be marketing to. I already gave you guys a few. So higher income earners, lower income earners. You might even say people who are newly wed, people who are newly parents, right? People who just adopted or had a kid or whatever the case may be. So the family's growing, they may need more space. This is kind of what you want to do. People who are coming from an apartment possibly, right? So if we want to target more apartment renters, then we want to make sure our material matches that. Just because you're a renter doesn't mean you're an apartment. Maybe you're looking at people who are renting from in a single family home or a condo, townhomes. Maybe they like the idea of a property like that, but they just haven't purchased yet. So now when you're marketing to those people, you kind of want to make sure you're really pushing on the fact that, hey, you're already paying X amount of dollars possibly, or you're really enjoying the idea of this backyard, this whole house, your own driveway, things like this. Why not make it into your own property, your own equity, uh, into yours, right? So that's kind of how you want to look at it as well. Now, when creating this marketing material, like I said, it has to be relevant to who you're marketing to. So I gave you the example of making sure that you're not sending first-time homebuyer flyers to people who've already owned property in the past. But we could also go as far as saying investors. If you're looking to deal with investors, you want to make sure the marketing that you have for those investors include things like the different types of loans available to these investors. So some of these investors are looking for loans that don't require income docs. They're looking for loans that may have higher percentages that they're giving you, so 100% or even possibly giving you some special incentives, such as maybe the first 2 months you don't pay, whatever the case may be. Whatever options you have for these buyers, these investors, that's kind of what you're going to be giving them, right? or putting on that marketing material. You could also even market certain types of property that you may already have. For example, if in your office you have an agent who is listing a property that's perfect for investors, you might even put that into your marketing material and say, hey, this is kind of what we deal with. This is kind of the stuff that I could bring to you as an investor. So that's what you're adding in your marketing material. Marketing material isn't just flyers that you're going to be mailing out or handing out to people. This could be videos you're creating. This could be social media posts that you have. This could be anything, right? So any type of marketing that you can think of, that's what we're talking about here. Then we have devoting time. Like I said, you want to make sure you're devoting the right amount of time based off of this marketing campaign. Okay. If we're going to be out here knocking door to door for these properties, 30 minutes is obviously not enough because you may have a conversation with somebody at that door that takes 20 minutes, that takes 15 minutes. If that conversation takes 15, 20 minutes and you only have 30 minutes dedicated, that is not a successful day of marketing yourself. Because there's going to be many, many more properties. There's going to be many, many more people that you didn't make it to or reach out to because of the time that you put in place to do this marketing uh, doesn't match what you have as far as the actual material. So you want to make sure you have adequate time. If you're going to be door to door, we're talking a few hours, making sure we have a good game plan. That's another big one. Making sure you have a good game plan or strategy as to how you're going to be executing this. You don't want to say, okay, I'm going to go to Miami to do some door knocking. Then after Miami, I'm going to go to Davenport to do some marketing. These are completely different cities, different areas. It won't make sense. You have to make sure it makes sense with how much time you have, where you are, and the type of marketing material you have. All right, so where are the potential buyers? Okay. We have our material, we identify who we're marketing to, and we kind of have an idea of how much time we're going to be dedicating to it. So whether it's once or twice a week, every weekend, whatever the case may be, we've already identified how much time we're devoting to it. So where are these potential buyers? Like I said a few times already, renters. A lot of renters may possibly want to be a homeowner, right? So this is the people that we're going to probably try to reach out to. We want to talk to these renters. We want to kind of see where they're at. We want to see if they're even interested in buying and things like this. Then we have out of state migration, people who are coming from other states moving to Florida. Uh, every season has a different type of people who's moving into Florida. At one point, we had a lot of California coming down to Florida or coming over to Florida. At one point, we had a lot of people from the Northeast, so New York, New Jersey, coming down to Florida. So it changes relevantly pretty often, right? So this is something you want to make sure when you're doing your research to find out how to create the marketing material, where to send your marketing material, you're paying attention to where are people coming from currently. And there's a lot of census, there's a lot of information out there that will give you an idea of where people are going to and where people are coming from. Then you have events. We want to hold events and we want to attend events when we're looking for buyers. Holding events, this is going to bring people directly to you, especially if you're creating events that are specific for home buying or specific for people who are looking to get into home ownership. Uh, that's going to be people who are a little bit more ready, a little bit more serious. That's going to be attending those events. Now, attending those events instead of just being the one that's holding the events, attending the events, maybe things like back to school programs, maybe things like community garage sale, yard sale, whatever the case may be. There's plenty of events happening all the time. So these are the types of events we're talking about. So we'll start with the renters. Renters, how do you find them? So we have obviously apartments. Everywhere you look, you're going to find apartments everywhere, left and right. Not every apartment, of course, and you want to make sure you're following the laws, you're following the community rules and guidelines. But there's apartments everywhere. You can go door to door to some of these apartments and speak to the renters. We talked about it in the past. You want to make sure the type of conversation you have, it makes sense. I don't want to spend 30, 45 minutes speaking to somebody who has zero interest. I'm not going to be pushing on that person. Hey, buy, buy, buy. Hey, you should buy, you should buy. When I speak with this person, if they feel or want to have more information, they feel like they actually want to buy a property. Now it's my turn to provide information, provide resources, what I could do for them in that moment. I can go ahead and give them that. But if I'm going door to door and somebody's telling me leave me alone, then I'm not going to keep pushing and say, hey, well, I have this information for you, or hey, before I leave, I'm just going to leave this flyer for you, even though you don't want to talk to me. You want to make sure you're paying attention to the type of people you're speaking to, as far as how the conversation, how the tone is. And of course, all the marketing material we have does cost money, so we don't want to just waste it. Partnering with food trucks at apartment. That's a really big one. So I don't know how many people have paid attention to this, but it has become more of a trend. It's become more of a common thing lately where a lot of food trucks will have contracts or have some sort of setup with apartments where they're allowed to have an event at that apartment once or twice a month, maybe every week, maybe every other week, a different food truck is at the apartment. You could actually partner with these food trucks because the food truck owner may have expenses or they do have expenses, and you could help them with that expense. You might say, hey, this week I want to donate or I want to contribute, we'll call it $500 or $1,000 to you guys, to your food truck. In exchange, I just want to have my flyer out in front when you're at this apartment. Or in exchange, I want to have my flag out. If I have a flag that has my information as far as real estate goes, I just want to have that out or available for people to see. Maybe even myself. In exchange, I want to be there and talk to different people if that's allowed. Of course, not only are you going to be making sure you speak to the food truck owners or operator, but also the apartment to make sure that's also allowed because you don't want to have any issues, of course. And like I said, it's becoming more common. So you could find yourself at a different apartment, two, three times in a week. You could find yourself at a different apartment once a month, once a weekend, and that'll allow you to not only have different partnerships with the food truck owners, because those people might be potential buyers or sellers in the future, but you're also exposing yourself to a lot more people in different areas while offering something like food, right? So although it's not free food, maybe you even partner in a way where you give it for free somehow, or first 500 or first 50 people get free food based off of you paying for it, whatever the case may be, the agreement may be. But this is all part of how you would market yourself and while partnering with a food truck. Holding a home buyer event at a clubhouse. So this first one or the second one was the food trucks at an apartment. Like I said, not all renters are at an apartment. Some renters are in single family homes, they're in townhomes, condos, whatever the case may be. If you speak to certain communities, you might find yourself in the position to possibly hold an event at their community clubhouse. Okay. If you hold an event at the community clubhouse, you might give it out. They might put it on their newsletter for the community. They might send out or allow you to leave flyers and at the people's front doors, whatever the case may be. They might allow this where you're able to say, hey, I'm going to be holding an event specifically for people who are looking to own a home, people who are renting, people who don't know where to start. I'm holding an event for you guys at the clubhouse. What does this do for them? This allows them to not only see your information, it gives you permission to hold the event, but also they don't have to go 30, 45 minutes out of the way to get this information. They might just go down the street. They may not even have to start their car. They may be able to walk to the clubhouse to be able to get this information, to be able to attend this event where you're fully giving everybody information. And then, of course, it's voluntary, which means everybody who's attending or most people who are going to be in attendance will more than likely be interested in what you're giving as far as information or in any uh, programs that you may be offering. They may be more interested in the idea of home ownership, etc. And then, of course, we have finding rented properties in the last 12 months. So for the most part, the most common term is going to be your 12-month lease, right? So if you're able to find those properties that were leased just about 12 months ago, 10 months ago, 8 months ago, 9 months ago, so more towards the end of that lease term or that common lease term, you're able to actually reach out to those people directly. Hey, you're at month 9. You have a few months left in your lease. I just wanted to see if you're interested, instead of renewing your lease, to possibly purchase a property. You give them that information, you give them the opportunity to think. And of course, you're not going to be doing it, on the 12th month, because on the 12th month, they're probably already renewed their lease or they've already decided what they're going to be doing. You want to do it a little bit sooner, which allows them to have time to think, has them allow enough time to prepare, gives them enough time to uh, really set up, get pre-approved, and have time to look for a property as well. So the out-of-state migration is a little bit different. Okay. The out-of-state migration, of course, for the most part, you're not going to be able to actually uh, go to these states. Maybe you do, maybe you have certain events set up, maybe you have money to do so, or you plan and budget for it. But let's assume that you're not going to actually leave the state. So, social media is going to be one of the biggest players in this, okay? Social media is going to be your best friend when it comes to reaching out to people who are out of the state. The great part of social media is I could be in Florida, I can be in Orlando, and I post something while somebody in Washington or North Dakota will be able to see that post, right? So social media posts are going to be a really big player when you're trying to get a hold of people who are out of state, right? One of the things that you could do when it comes to that is figuring out what's going on in those different states as far as events. Certain states have very big football integration in their state. Like that's something that they really do focus on, something that they really like, right? So if I know this state is big on football, when their team goes to the championship, when their team goes to the playoffs, when their college team makes it to the national title championship tournament, whatever the case may be, this is when I'm going to be making posts relevant to not only that team, not only that state, but also relevant to my uh, marketing material. So me saying, hey, you can buy a house, right? So I might say, congratulations to this team. Congratulations to the players out here. Maybe you even do a little bit more research. You might find out their star player comes from your state, right? So they come from Florida. Hey, congratulations to Mr. John Doe, quarterback for Team X. They're coming from Florida. They originally came from here, migrated out there, and now they're a champion. Something like that will help people to kind of draw their attention to your page, to your post, where you're talking about something that they like while also referencing your state, while referencing the actual what you're providing. So we're talking about real estate as well, talking to storage companies in different states. So a lot of renters have storage units. That's just something that they do, mostly because of the fact that they know they're going to be moving a lot of times. They don't want to move everything every single time. So if they know they're moving often every year, sometimes more than once in a year, they may have a storage. That being said, they will usually go to that storage to either put more things in it or grab something that they forgot in there, whatever the case may be. Uh, if you find these storage companies in these different states, you may be able to talk to them, get a hold of them, get a hold of the local companies, the smaller ones especially, and say, hey, I'd like to have my flyers out there. What would it take? Hey, I'd like to be able to give out material in that area. Am I allowed to do this? Right? This will allow you to be in these people's faces all the time, right? So we're talking about this person who goes to the stores 2 or 3 times in a week. They're seeing your flyer, they're seeing your face, your information every single time they walk into that building, every time they go to that storage facility or unit. So that is something that you could also use to your advantage. Mailers. We've talked about mailers in the past. So mailers are going to be those postcards. It's going to be pretty much just your information, very brief kind of flyer of what you offer, how to get a hold of you, and you could send that out to different routes. Okay, so we've talked about the USPS system, which allows you to do direct mailers, which will allow you to actually send these things directly to these houses, directly into these people's mailboxes. Okay, we're not talking about cars, we're not talking about just leaving it at their door. We're talking about directly into their mailboxes. So when they check the mail, they're going to see your information. They're going to see what you're offering. Partnering with out-of-state professionals. What does this mean? So professionals is anybody who provides a service in any field, okay? The first field we'll talk about is taxes because we're in tax season. Tax day is April 15th. If you find a professional tax preparer, a CPA, or anything like this in an area, partnering with them, talking to them, getting to know them, and being able to market yourself through them to their clients will help you to get those out-of-state clients as well. Hey, Mr. John Doe, I know you're a tax preparer. I'd like to market to all your clients if they're looking to buy a property in the state. If they're looking to move from this state to Florida, I'm available to service them, available to help them out. And maybe that person will say, yeah, no problem. Let's do it. Maybe somehow they may need something out of it for themselves. Whatever the case may be, you guys will kind of negotiate and come to an agreement as to what you have to offer for them and what they have to offer for you. And then lastly, events. So when we talk about events, we're talking about home buyer seminars, okay? Home buyer seminars, what are they? A lot of people do not know a single thing about getting into home ownership. They don't know where to start. They don't know how much money they need. They don't know the credit score they need. They don't know who to contact first. When you hold a home buyer seminar, this allows those people to kind of get that information exactly what they will need to buy a house. Are they in a good spot to buy a house? When should they start looking, where they should start looking, who they should start contacting, things like this, right? That's what a home buyer seminar does. It kind of just gives that person the ability to collect and gather all the information regarding home ownership, regarding getting into a home. And if you're holding it and you're giving this information to these folks, and they're seeing how knowledgeable you are, they more than likely will want to use you as the person, as the realtor to buy their property. Back to school slash time relevant community service. When we say events as well, we're not only talking about events that you're holding, we're talking about events that you could attend as well or participate in. So when the time comes for back to school events, when the time comes for the community garage sale, when the time comes for the community cleaning, so spring cleaning, whatever the case may be, anything time relevant. That's what the important word is right there, time relevant. So depending on what that community has at these different times, some communities have festivals like the Strawberry Festival over in Plant City. It's a big thing. A lot of people attend it. Something like that, you're going to make sure you're marketing out there. You're partnering with different vendors out there. You're going to these different events and settings where you're able to market yourself and talk to these different potential home buyers. Sponsoring an event is very similar to the community service that I just said. So you may not be in a position to actually hold an event. You may not be in a position to actually be at the event, but sponsoring an event will allow you to be able to contribute to somebody's event, contribute to an event, while also having your logo, your face, your information available for people to see. Example, you might have somebody who's holding a uh, community cleanup, for example, and they say, well, the community cleanup is going to cost us $1,500. That's going to be material. That's going to be coffee for everybody in the morning, whatever the case may be. You might say, okay, I have $1,500. I'm willing to contribute this to this event. In return, I want to make sure my flyers, my information, my shirts, right? I might make shirts or something like this are being worn. So if there's going to be a uniform for everybody that's going to be wearing it, my logo's on it, my information's on it. If everybody's going to have a bag in return, a drawstring bag, my information's on that drawstring bag. So that allows you to contribute to your community, be involved in your community without actually having to be there in certain situations. And then, of course, holding an event with professionals in the area. So just like we talked about finding professionals outside or in another state, you want to also talk about or talk to professionals in your area. We're going to use the same example of tax preparers. If you have a tax preparer in your area, tax season's here, you might hold something like a barbecue in their at their place, right? So when tax season first started, we're talking about hundreds and hundreds and possibly even thousands of people who are quickly trying to get their taxes filled ASAP. That's a lot of people, a lot of potential possible buyers out there that you could be talking to. So if you're holding an event with these professionals, they're able to not only get something out of it, so they come to fill their taxes, they leave with hot dogs and hamburgers and sodas, courtesy of you, right? While they're there waiting in line, while they're waiting to sit with that tax preparer, they're able to have a conversation with you. You're able to answer some questions for them, things like this. If we want to go outside of the tax preparer, maybe something like a uh, doctor or a chiropractor, for example, you might partner with them and say, hey, I know school's coming in soon. You're doing physicals. I want to pay for some physicals. I want to actually be there while you're doing this physical event where everybody can come and get their sports physical. I want to talk to the parents about home ownership, right? So now you're able to be in these folks' faces again. You're able to have a conversation with them. You're able to contribute. Hey, I know sports physicals might cost $100, but today I'm actually paying for everybody's sports physicals. This is the service I offer. This is what we can do for you. Are you interested? Et cetera, et cetera. So this is what we're talking about when we say hold an event with a professional. You want to make sure as well that it does make sense, right? You don't want to kind of hold an event with a professional that has zero relevance to what you're doing. Um, for example, if you have a professional hockey player that is a professional, but it may not make sense to actually hold an event with a hockey player who's just, at practice or whatever the case may be. Maybe if they want to do a signing, if they're a good player and you want to have some sort of meet and greet, that's an event you can do with a professional hockey player, but it has to make sense with what you're trying to do. So that's kind of everything in terms of talking or marketing to these or finding, I should say, finding these buyers, right? So we identify who we'd like to talk to or market to. We create the material based off of that, and of course, we devote time to it. The potential buyers are going to be our renters, people who are leaving the state they're in to come to this state possibly, and then of course, people who are going to events who are possibly looking at buying a house. We talked about from going door to door, the food trucks, the clubhouse event, along with people who have leases that are expiring soon. We talked about the social media posts, storage companies or facilities, and the mailers, along with partnering with outside professionals, out-of-state professionals, and then, of course, holding events, attending events, or sponsoring events. Any questions on that? Right. Well, I appreciate you guys attending. I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your day. Looking forward to hearing from you guys and seeing you guys in the next training. If you guys have any questions, of course, feel free to reach out to me. I'm gonna make sure I get the uh, marketing slides linked into the video along with into the Google Drive for the agents in our office so that you guys can access and see what we were talking about in this. And of course, don't forget you guys can access all these videos on the YouTube channel. So make sure if you guys missed anything or if you guys need to watch this again, you guys are going to the video, watching it, and really understanding the information. Other than that, you guys have a great rest of your day.